This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to Molby On The Spot, your weekly chance, thanks to Anfield Index Pro, to hear the wit and wisdom of Mr. Jan Molby. So let's waste no time and bring him back to your ears and eyes once more. Good evening, Jan.
Yes, good evening, Trevor. Hope you enjoyed the weekend.
Hard not to, my friend. It was a very special occasion in a way that I certainly wasn't expecting. I didn't see that coming, anything of that magnitude, anything that would bring me that much happiness, especially maybe even right up to the end when we heard the team announced and there was none of our hoped for big hitters available. But what happened on that afternoon in that stadium, Jan, it was, it felt a little bit more than just a League Cup win. And not to diminish that trophy at all, but you understand what I'm saying in terms of the hierarchy. It's the lesser of them, but it felt more important than that. It felt really, really special.
So it's an end of an era, but it also looks like the start of a new cycle, doesn't it? You know,
yeah.
It's like, yes, Jurgen is going, isn't it? But have we ever been in better shape?
That's what you're left with out of that. And I don't know whether you found it very heartening in terms of what's left for the season or whether that fed into how you're feeling about things going forward. And we'll get to that because the rest of the course of the discussion will bring us that way. But there's several little parts about Sunday that I want to talk about specifically. There's an awful lot of chat about how a team that hopes to have success at the end of the year can possibly use this as a springboard. And I think the most recent examples are City seeming to take it seriously and winning. Was it 4 in a row they won, Jan? I think something like that of it. And therefore it can be this springboard in terms of, well, a uniting thing, a sort of momentum thing. This is what we do. We win things kind of a feeling. And you would imagine that that's very much the impact it's going to have on this Liverpool squad, injuries or no. So just from that perspective alone, I heard someone saying, look, if that's the only thing we win, I'm going to celebrate the hell out of it because it was glorious. But it feels, doesn't it, like there's more than that, just that alone in this group. On the basis of what we saw, it was basically an attitude of, no, you don't beat us, we win.
And that in fairness, Trevor, that's exactly the same attitude I had when I got to Wembley. And you speak to people, I'm not talking about supporters, but I'm talking about people in the same business as me, reporters, ex-players and whatever. And it was kind of an avalanche of bad news. People go, with this team, this is the one, we can't keep getting away with it. And my argument all along was, yeah, but we just have an attitude that stops us from getting beat. We just don't lose games. We just don't lose these big games, regardless. And I have to say then, in commentary, and when we got to extra time and you look at what the two teams have on the pitch, I thought, okay, this is now a manager who's looking at the bigger picture. Jurgen Klopp taking up some of the experienced players. And I thought, well, okay, Chelsea will take control, and it's whether we can hang in there for 30 minutes. But it comes back to, what would you rather have? Would you rather have all the players available like Chelsea did? Or would you rather have us with a few injuries, but us being a well-oiled machine? So you saw that when we made the substitutions. We went straight back into our rhythm. The youngsters came on towards the end of 90 minutes. We had a few problems there to sort ourselves out. Klopp sorted it out before extra time started. And then we dominated extra time for 30 minutes. So there's a lot to be said for a happy camp, for a well-oiled machine. And I just think that all those kids in there, aren't they, protected by Klopp's way of playing? You know, whereas a lot of, I was at Old Trafford seeing Chelsea Sunday, there is no protection for your Manchester United players or Chelsea players in the way that they play. Because the two of them, both clubs, are fucking clueless, you know. So, you know, but it's a fact, Trevor. You know, we protect our young players by being able to put them into something that even they know in their sleep how it's meant to be, yeah? You know, so that's a massive help business. So, you know, so as much as we say we did this and we put all these young players, whatever, and I don't know. There's some of the youngsters I think is going to have great careers. The others I don't know. But one thing's for sure, all them, and that was the one thing I got at the end, Trevor, you know, when you're there. The one thing I got at the end was all those young players has now been given a day they'll never forget. And when you look at the likes of the players we have who have semi-famous fathers, you know, Clark and Dans and Kumas and whatever, I look through their record. Their dad's never won anything. You know, it's like football is about winning, Trevor, isn't it? You know, so them kids have got something, isn't it? I just think that it's credit to the way that Klopp sets things up when you don't have to be. If we have injuries, he doesn't have to lose sleep over it, yeah, because we know what we're doing. We don't have to replace one for one. We just put him in there, and they're protective of what we do, isn't it? So yeah, it was remarkable. I mean, it was like you said, it was a weird sort of it was much more than just winning, or many call, and by the so the small of the two domestic cups, isn't it? But there was nothing small about Sunday, was it? It was remarkable. I have to say, I really, really enjoyed it.
Because it was so emotional, it was particularly extra special because of the way it panned out with the disallowed goal, and we'll speak about that perhaps if you fancy a run down that one in a little bit. It did feel extra special. It did feel it felt significant. But I'm really fascinated by something you're saying there, and I wouldn't mind teasing it out with you a bit, because you're in a fine position to speak to us about it, having been part of the Liverpool setup that you came into, which was the ultimate well-oiled machine, and the boot room philosophy had carried from one manager to another to another. You were there for the transition of one to another, and then later on again. And you were also at Ajax, which had a reputation for, well, this is how we play the game, and you stepped into that. And I remember you talking to me about, you know, feeling your way in, and then suddenly, okay, it clicks, you know how it works, you know where you fit in, you know what you do in any given position. And I think Liverpool and Ajax were unusual in those days for being, I don't think there were systems teams like teams are systems teams now, but there was, as you say, very much that way of playing so that people know what it is they're supposed to do when they step into that team. What is it? Do you see any comparison with the setup with Klopp? You outlined how we can take in Dan's, McConnell, Quanta has a little bit of experience. We can have right back Bradley. We can have at least one or two others who are academy graduates there on the pitch at the end, and it is quite seamless. It says a lot about this guy and what he's put in situ that can happen. What is that? Is that just a technical, Jan? Can it be technical? Can you really have that much information in your head as a footballer? Or is it more cultural in terms of an attitude towards how the game should be played? Do you see where I'm going with that? If there's
yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, on the technical side, when you talk about that, more or less every football club is capable of producing the same sort of technical information and way of playing, isn't it? The one thing that sets it aside, and a guy said that to me on Sunday before the game, he is from within the camp, and we were just briefly talking about Jurgen Klopp leaving, and he went, yeah, but it's not the technical side we're worried about, He said it's not, because we will get another great coach. He said it's the other bit that Jurgen brings, that cultural thing, that thing that you run till you can't run anymore, and then you just run a little bit more, yeah? All those things.
Yeah.
Demanding, yeah? Fox demanding. He stands on a touchline and sometimes people think, what's he shouting at? He's demanding, and that's a cultural thing, isn't it? So the technical side, more or less everybody produces the same, isn't it? But it's how you put it into practice, isn't it? And what I'm saying is that some clubs, like Liverpool, and we were talking about that again at the weekend, and if you look at the clubs where they're at Anfield, they're at it at Manchester City, they're at it at Arsenal, they're at it at Aston Villa, they're at it at Spurs, yeah? But then you look at some of the other clubs like Manchester United and Chelsea, where they're not at it. And that's a cultural thing, isn't it? It's a cultural thing, isn't that? They're just not at it, is it, with all that money? And that must be, I don't want to jump on Chelsea and whatever, but their fans must be devastated. One thing was losing a very successful and popular owner, whatever we think of him, yeah, but he was very popular and he was very successful at Chelsea. And then they get this new guy and they think we're going into a new era. They're spending money like it's going out of fashion. And this is what you got. You got nothing. You got nothing that fills you with pride, do you, Trevor?
Yeah.
And that was the one thing. Had we lost on Sunday, which we could have done, yeah, they had their chances. We could have lost that game, isn't it? But we'd have still walked away there with immense pride, isn't it? And you look at the earthquake surrounding Chelsea now, isn't it? They came to that game in good form, just drawn 1-1 with City, 3 games unbeaten, and everybody's okay. They lose a game like that because it was an opportunity, and all hell breaks loose, isn't it? These are the things as a football club you must avoid, But if you don't have your house in order, and they don't have the house in order, because otherwise they wouldn't be in, where are they, 11th, 25 points behind Liverpool, So it's all them things, isn't it? And we've semi-been there ourselves, haven't we, Trevor? But we've never been there without the pride, We've never been there without the pride, but we always had pride, even when we were bang average. We still had pride because the fans won't let the players get away with things, isn't it? The one thing we didn't have was quality. But, so I look at it and I go, that thing that Klopp brings, most players who played under him won't be able to 100% explain to us what it was. It's just, here he is again now. I better stand in line, what does he want me to do? And it is like that, isn't it, Trevor? What do you want me to do, boss? Yeah, I'll do that.
To see how he was involved, I thought it was a lovely gesture that he was, I assume, approached by Virgil, because I can't see Kloppo ever insisting on something like that. Would appear to be the opposite way he'd tend to go. But to see him be involved with the trophy lift, to see him be as carried away with the celebrations as he was, like genuinely in the moment in a way that's lovely to see, that it's one of the things we like about him is his humanity and is the openness of the guy. It clearly meant a lot is where I'm going with this. And I think, Jan, some of us might have feared, the more pessimistic people, I won't include myself in that because I was quite optimistic about it, but some people did fear that perhaps, that thing of, well, the manager's going now and the whole thing feels a bit dead rubber, or he's a bit of a dead man walking. But if anything, the aura around Klopp has grown. You can see that. You could see that in the reaction of each of the individual players to him and him to them. If anything, it's just getting bigger and bigger as this season bundles on since we found out. And I think that is probably the most encouraging aspect of all of it, Jan, is that it feels like, they will do what you were talking about, the running through walls, the how high do you want me to jump boss. It does feel like that thing is absolutely in situ. So whatever can be milked out of this squad, I really am optimistic that it will be milked out of it by the end of the season. It doesn't feel like we're going to go down like a damn squib. If anything, we'll go out swinging.
But I feel we're at that stage now, Trevor, where the manager doesn't have to ask for any effort of the players. The players are bending over backwards to give him everything they got, and that is out of respect for the manager, but it's also equally out of respect for the club, isn't it? Because you're in a position where the manager's about to walk through the door and you might just take your foot off the pedal in it. But so much respect for the manager and for the club. That's just unthinkable, isn't it? So yeah, I totally agree. Every little bit we're going to need in terms of effort, we will get. Whether it's all enough in the end, I don't know. But let's not worry about the season going off a cliff because Jurgen Klopp and the players won't be able to deal with that mentally and emotionally and whatever. That's gone, that hasn't it? I mean, Klopp is not allowing it to become an emotional thing. He's asked them to become a motivation. This must motivate you, lads. Not that I'm leaving, but the fact that we have this opportunity in year one of a rebuild. Grab it with both hands because it's all very good saying, Trevor. And I remember when I was a manager in outside the leagues with Kiddermans in a conference, and it was a 2-horse race. And I always remember the chairman saying, "Oh well, if we don't win it this year, we can win it next year." And I thought, if we don't win it this year, we'll never win it. So it's about grabbing the moment, isn't it? Because you can never be sure. And I think Klopp has got that message to the players.
It certainly feels that way, and it was a little bit of a flattener when we heard that none of our big names that we were hoping might be available, the trio of Mo and Darwin and Dom Szoboszlai, none of them made even the bench. So we did have that lineup that was very similar to the one from the previous game, and before you know it, we're struggling on with another lad, Crocked Gravenberg, with a terrible looking challenge. And that leads into the next little bit of adversity, which is the decisions around that really seemed odd to me, how that can not be acknowledged for what it was. Very strange. And it's not like that was the only one. It was the most graphic one by Caicedo, but he got away with a couple. And he wasn't the only one who got away with a couple in the early goings of the match and all the way through the first half. As Chris Kavanagh seemed to, let the game flow when it was in favour of Chelsea and not necessarily Liverpool. When the Reds finally do go ahead through that wonderful Virgil van Dijk header, they found a way, it really felt like they were trying to find a way to disallow it. And I understand the technical argument. I think it's absolute, pardon my French, bollocks, because that happens in every single set piece, corner, free kick, every single one. I don't get it yet. So the adversity was getting racked up, and they did get their tails up a little bit eventually because of the constant adversity against Liverpool. I think when that goal was disallowed, there was a tough spell for us to weather, and Kelleher stood up, and a lot of our players stood up. Endo was outstanding. In fact, it's hard to pick out a lad who wasn't good. So we got on with battling that adversity, but it was very much part of the narrative, wasn't it, on the day? It really did feel like, oh God, it's got to be one of these. What did you make specifically of the disallowed goal decision? I mean, do you buy into that analysis that Mike Dean seemed to be making up in the spot that, oh, well, he's about to go into the drop zone where the ball will drop? I said, oh, that's a new phrase I haven't heard about before, the drop zone. And, Endo's blocking off the lad from getting to the drop zone where he could, Caldwell, I think it was, where he could potentially then influence the Van Dijk thing. Let's not say anything about the fact that Virgil was having his shirt pulled as he scored. Let's focus on the other thing. It all felt very, very, very hinky to me, and then sent to the monitor and so on. Talk to me around about that and about all the way the adversity was piling up.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents a Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So in terms of the law of the games, I totally get that VAR looks at that. I totally get that. And VAR flags that up as, oh, this is potential, yeah. I'm 100% with that one. And I guess that's what you were saying before. You understand the technical aspect of it all. And then it becomes subjective. And how anyone, Trevor, subjectively can come to that decision is beyond me. I've heard that phrase before. The ball is about to drop into the drop zone and whatever. Yeah, I've heard that phrase before. But how anyone can come to that decision is ever so baffling. I'm not a big fan of jumping on the referee's backs because I think the job is hard enough as it is, isn't it? But I said in commentary when Chris Kavanagh, and, you know, Chris Kavanagh is an average Premier League referee who I guess is not up to refereeing a game with this magnitude. And by that I mean the rivalry between Liverpool and Chelsea, and that's been born out of the fact that we've frequently played each other in the last 25 years in big games, isn't it? That's how that rivalry has come about, isn't it? You know, they've come and bought their way into the top table, and because of that, we have a rivalry. And he's not up to that, isn't he? And I said in commentary, when he went to that screen, and he's looking at that screen forever, yeah? And I said, he is thinking, why the fuck have they sent me out here?
Yeah.
You know, I generally thought he's standing there looking at the screen. You know, sometimes you got that blank look in your eyes, and you go, I'll just stand here for a minute, you know what I mean? Just to humour people, yeah? I generally thought he was going to go, what a twat for sending me out here, you know? Yeah. And he would have just gone, go. And Christ almighty, I couldn't have been more wrong. And then he fell off my chair. It was unreal, Trevor. The only good thing is the reason that you're smiling and I'm laughing because of it, we got a winner in the end, isn't it? Can you imagine if we had? Christ almighty. You know, it's like these things have to stop, Trevor. These things generally have to stop. You know, and the people go, VAR. I said, it's got nothing to do with VAR. It's the fucking people who use it, you know, it's the people who make these decisions. Nothing wrong with technology, you know. These people, Christ almighty, I come back to, you know, even if Gianfranco Sola would have sat up there in the VAR room, yeah, as a Chelsea legend, he'd have gone, that's a fucking goal. Everybody would have gone. Yeah, everybody, yeah, you know. Yeah. Even John Terry, sitting there ready in his kit in case the came to even he'd have gone, I can't disallow that. Oh, fucking Chris Kavanagh could. Jesus.
Chris Kavanagh could, fair play to him.
No, yeah.
You know, well, once you're sent to the monitor, I think you have to understand that you've been a bold boy, you've made the wrong decision, and you need to make the right decision. That seems to be the way of it. Before we focus on some other of the fun aspects, which is an awful lot of the really, really, really sour grapes reactions to the first cup win of the season, I just wanted to hear from you on who you think really did stand up in terms of the performance. And it's an easy thing to bunch them together, and you kind of really can, especially the lads who came on at the last minute. I'd be interested to hear your take on that, because you've already alluded to the fact that it was kind of, it looked like, I think to most people, I really need to protect some of my first team members here. And then other people interpret it as almost arrogance, you know, in terms of putting on these youngsters. But the result was that these guys came in and they dictated the play for the last half hour that the pitch was alive with football. These kids, they drove it. McConnell striding around the midfield, Dan's looking really insistent up top. All the other kids, Quanta stepping onto the ball, bringing it out from the back. That's what happened. Liverpool played the football in that extra time. But I'm just interested to get your take on who you thought really stood out. It's going to be hard to look past Big Quiveen with a couple of Ali-style world-class saves, but I'm sure there were others that stood out for you.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously so many who did ever so well. But just to come back to, when we left Merseyside to go to Wembley, we were on a mission, weren't we? We were on a mission to go to London and pick up that trophy. And then when you hear Chelsea after the game, my manager going, "Oh, we played for penalties." I mean, you couldn't make it up. It's embarrassing, isn't it? So yeah, you already mentioned the goalkeeper who did what he had to do. A couple of really, really good smart saves. And he needed that, didn't he? Because he'd fallen into a little bit of where people were starting to doubt him a little bit and whether he'd ever be any more than a number 2 or whatever. So he had a really good game. But after saying, we did a preview show on a Friday, and we were trying to compare Hansen and Van Dijk. And I always think it's always easier to go, well, all the players I played with are the best in the world, isn't it? And I really built up Van Dijk on a Friday, and it was one of the biggest days in the club history when we signed him because of the eventual improvement that came with that, isn't it? And I thought Big Virgil, was I mean, in extra time, it almost looked like a bunch of kids who'd won a competition to play at Wembley with Virgil, it's one of them, if they come and play a game at Wembley with Big Virgil, he'll look after you, you know what I mean? And that's exactly what he did, didn't he? And that's a goal aside, isn't it? Because I'm thinking that if we have to defend in extra time, it'll be Big Virgil. But I thought they all did well. You mentioned Endo before. He did really well. McAllister is just getting better and better, Trevor, when he came, and for a spell I thought, have we seen this wrong? Have we got this wrong? Is he not as good as we thought? But I'm starting to see it now. He's a vision, he's passing. It's off the scale, isn't it beautiful? Lewis Diaz just never stopped. He was kind of the one. He was that carry threat, wasn't he? Give him to the ball and he could carry the game. And then you had others who had to do a job. Conor Bradley, when Gravenberch, I would have put Conor central midfield and kept Harvey out wide, because I don't think it did Conor Bradley any favours having to play as almost like a right winger, you know what I mean? So I would have put him in central in it, but all those kids, Robbo did what Robbo did, and always takes great care of everything. But I agree with you. Because you look at these kids and sometimes they come on and they don't do a lot, do they? They just come on when the game is sort of filtering out and whatever. But McConnell, when you talk about, we spoke about Kwanzaa and we spoke about Bradley and whatever, McConnell's got a chance, hasn't he? He's got that. He's got that about him, hasn't he? You know what I mean? Nothing phases me either, but the boy can play, I really like him. So, possibly with all those, but I don't know, but possibly with all the others, he's another one we can think. He's got a long future ahead of him at Liverpool. I'm convinced of that.
And possibly, I think the one who got the most time was Bobby Clark. And for me, I just thought he struggled a little bit in his first few exchanges. But again, you see another really confident lad there, and anything he's done on the pitch in his contributions recently, it's like, how have we gotten so many of these lads who have? It's not a swagger, it's just a confidence to go and get on the ball and do things. Curtis Jones had it when he came into the team first, he still has it. Jarrell Kwanzaa had it when he came into the team, and it's only grown. And I wonder, does it come down to, again, that cultural thing of the confidence of knowing that you have a specific role here. There's certain things that you must do. You always look to get on the ball and keep it moving and be involved in the play. Listen, this is going to sound a bit controversial, but I grew up and played where you might have a very good footballer in your team who would spend a good portion of the match hiding. And only do the bits that he wanted to do. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I've seen that in the professional game as well. But none of these lads hide. That's the really, really heartening thing about it, Jan, for me, is none of them hide. They all want the ball. They want to be on the ball. They want to be progressive with the ball. That's the most exciting thing, I think, for fans looking to the next couple of years.
I think that's because they're being asked, or it's being demanded from them, that they show something every day in training. I mean, you mentioned the hiding thing. I've played with players who hit, and you always kind of make an excuse for them. Go, it's not deliberate. It's kind of the way he plays and whatever. But these players are being asked to produce every single day. We even in our day, and we were pretty successful in our day, we could have days in training where somebody didn't really show because, wasn't up for it, didn't feel the energy or whatever. But that doesn't go anymore, does it, Trevor? You know, every day, come on, now we're going to work. Yeah, so every day, I want you to push yourself in the best possible way you can. And I think that shows in the games, because they're used to being available, moving the ball along, and if they make mistakes, it's one of them things, isn't it? So we just get on with it, isn't it? And it's obviously all to do. So when you compare, and when I said before, have we ever been in better shape? When I was getting sold by Ajax, and the last few training days, I trained with the reserves. I didn't know any of the reserve players. I'd never seen any of them. They used to train every day at 5 o'clock. So I was asked to train with them at 5 o'clock. And when I trained with them, I realised, this club's never got any problems, you know what I mean? Because there's a whole group here, you know. And this is the same thing we're seeing here, isn't it? You know, Trevor, I've been there with all those over the years at Anfield. And there was a tendency that it would be in the League Cup they got their debuts. And people get carried away, you know. I was there when Woodburn became the youngest scorer for Liverpool the same day against Leeds with Harry Wilson and whatever. And, you know, I said, I think that both of them, good luck, they've had a great night, but I think both of them will struggle to make the grade of Liverpool, you know. And I'm looking at these, and I think already now, let's say there's 7 or 8 of them, I think already half of them are bankers, you know, to be at Liverpool for a long, long time. And that's good, isn't it? And the others look right. You know, it's just whether they've got enough quality in it, but they look right. And personality is massive, Trevor. We've often spoken about that, haven't we? Personality is massive. You know, you've got to have a personality to go with you. You know, and you've got to be able to handle. Not just the ball and the games or whatever. There's a lot more to go to it. So I like it. I think the boy that runs the academy, Alex Inglethorpe, I think he's done a really, really good job. He's another demanded one, never happy. Come on, we can do more. You know, so yeah, very good.
We should be honest and say that Chelsea really made a great game of it. And I think the stats were incredible in terms of the amounts of shots and attempts on target and off. I'm just getting it up here because I want to be able to see it properly. Yeah, it was bananas. 24 shots for the Reds, 19 for Chelsea, 11 on target for us and 9 on target for them. We had just shaded the possession with 54%. And the passing we shaded as well, 689 to 587, which is just a reflection of the possession, I suppose, more than anything else. A bit more accurate with ours as well. And somebody said as well, this famous new XG stat, which basically references what how strong the opportunity of scoring is. I don't think anyone's ever saved more XG against than Keller did in that match, either in a major final or in a cup final or something like that. That again tells you that they were very good and they were putting us right up against it. And on another night, they could have had a couple of goals. So we just want to be really, really honest about that. But we started speaking about culture, and it's not to crow at all, but it seems really odd that on a day when they could absolutely say, right, see you, Caicedo, see you, Enzo, you guys were players that Liverpool would have coveted, one of you particularly obviously so. See you, Cole Palmer, see you, Raheem Sterling, you know, go and show these lads what you're all about. Raheem, you've got some scores to settle and so on. And they finished the game that they finished, or the team that they finished with, I believe, was Petrovic, Gusto, Disasi, Colwell, Chalobah, Palmer, Enzo, Caicedo, Madueke, Mudryk, and Nkunku. And these are players that would be very much desired by any club, really. Highly rated footballers. Look how much we were reportedly willing to pay for Colwell as well. Mudryk was a highly rated one who probably just hasn't done what a lot of people were hoping he was going to do. But there's a huge amount of talent there. So you mentioned the fact that their manager was coming out talking some nonsense about how almost like throwing his players under the bus, to be honest with you, in terms of the attitude of playing for penalties and stuff like that. Where does that come from? And why would you ever consider that that's acceptable? Forget that we are not as inexperienced as everybody said we were when we started. That Liverpool should still turn up. And Sky Sports, most of the media outlets didn't really want to talk about the fact that there were 7 first teamers out. They just didn't really want to talk about it. So let's not talk about it. And let's say Chelsea go into that game with the best fucking opportunity ever. And they've lost 6 finals in a row now. To just put this thing to bed, to do a number on us, to show their superiority. But none of them could manage it, Jan. Not really. You couldn't say that any of them were dominant over their opposition over the course of the 90. And that's very, very strange. And it speaks to whatever the opposite mentality to the one that we have is.
Yeah, they have a number of problems. I mean, I've always been convinced that Mauricio Pochettino is a decent manager, but I've never been convinced he's a winning manager. And I think there's a massive difference. It's a bit, you can put Graham Potter into exactly the same category. I think he's a very good manager, but he's not a winning manager. And I think most of our listeners will fully understand what we mean by winning. And then you talk about these players and Mihail Mudryk, I mean, it's been a disaster ever since he joined, which I still find hard to believe, because I do believe that if Chelsea were ever to sell him, somebody else would snap him up and make a play out of him. I couldn't have it any other way. But there's other people like Enzo Fernandez, he disappointed. People keep telling me he's a World Cup winner, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm going, yeah, well, all right, do something then, if you want to have any credit for Argentina winning the World Cup, start showing something, because otherwise I'm going to keep telling people, well, that Messi's like Maradona did in 86 more on his own, because if that's the best they've got to show, it's not good enough, is it? But the one Trevor is Raheem Sterling. I mean, what is that all about? His standing in the game, what they spent on bringing him to Chelsea, the money they gave him, and he must have been the one. Even Caicedo, he was a lot more expensive, but he was a young player that you need to work with, and it might be 18 months, 2 years before you see the best of him. But Raheem Sterling is a fully fledged international. The trophy cabinet is bulging, isn't it? Come down here and it's like, nothing. I mean, nothing. Did he touch the ball in the second half? It was embarrassing. I know you look back and go, he scored an offside goal. It was not a goal, it was an offside goal, isn't it? So I just, some of these clubs, and Manchester United in the same boat, and we've got a new share owner at Old Trafford, and he's telling me all these things, and I'm going, yeah, mate, but this is fucking hard, This is hard to get right, isn't it? You think of how long it's took us, Trevor. But by heck, we've got it right now, haven't we? From top to bottom. We've cleaned up everywhere. There's no hiding places. There is no hiding places. You have to do your job. If you don't do your job, find somewhere else.
I'm looking forward to, on a future show, having a chance to talk to you about said United share owner and his attitude towards using public money for any of their plans in the future. It's an odd one. I don't think many people saw that coming. Ex-United legend in his own lifetime, Rio Ferdinand, was one of many who was full of sour grapes in the aftermath, leaning into the average age of the Chelsea side actually being slightly less than the average age of the Liverpool side at the end, because it was all about Klopp's kids, and not counting the fact that you've got established international, highly rated players that were bought for a lot of money who are first teamers who just happen to be young, as opposed to lads who have literally made 2 appearances beforehand or whatever. We saw Pep Guardiola, who can't help himself these days. It really feels like if anyone can do a number on him mentally, it's Jurgen Klopp. If there's anyone who can really rattle him in terms of getting inside his head, making him do daft things, definitely say daft things. He was out talking about the Carabao Cup, and when he came, he was told by Brian Kidd to just ignore it. Like, what's the point? It's play the kids. And basically he was saying, I don't know, the gist of it was, I don't know what's happened over the last couple of years, but it seems like a different kind of final now. And all in one, you had the perfect Pep Guardiola thing. You had the prissy thing of nobody loves us, and why aren't you giving us praise for all those League Cups we won? You have the just outrageous jealousy that is always in him about Liverpool and Klopp in particular. And the snide little diminishing of the fact that we won it in a dramatic way in 22 and we've won it in a dramatic way in 24. And I can't tell you how low the guy's fallen in my esteem. And I used to really, when he was at Barca, even though he had the same advantages he has at City, I rated him. And there was something admirable about him. But every year it's getting more and more difficult to like this fella, Jan. He has no business saying that. It just has a terrible bang of sour grapes and jealousy, really.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Well, it has nothing to do with the League Cup. It has everything to do with Liverpool, and he's starting to realise, isn't he? So he knows that coming for him, and he just wants Liverpool to be stopped every now and again in their track. Yeah, so it gives you a belief that we can be beaten, we can be stopped, isn't it? So he would have sat there and watched that game on Sunday, and he's thinking, extra time, yes, this is Chelsea, yeah. I don't think he was particularly bothered, but he's thinking, yeah, this is Chelsea's now in it. So it's a little bump in the road for Liverpool, isn't it? And them things are important. I don't care what you say. Those things are important, and he didn't get that. So he's now thinking, does it really matter what they do? It doesn't seem to matter. Everything they do comes off in the right way. The Luton second half, all them things that, you're sitting there and he's thinking, yeah, I could do with this falling my way. Nothing is falling his way, is it? And the fact that we're coming for him, we're just coming for him quicker, and he might not even be ready. By the time we come for him on the 10th of March, he might not be ready. They are still unbeaten since they got beat by Aston Villa, which is a long, long time ago, isn't it? But they're not really convincing, are they, at the moment? So, he knows that. He's a bright boy. He knows that he can see what's happening. And sometimes these things and you go, how the fuck are we going to stop this? And obviously he was hoping that others could help on the way. They haven't. So now it looks like it's left to him, isn't it? And I don't think he's looking forward to that, because he's been to Anfield before, hasn't he? And he's never enjoyed being at Anfield. Never. Apart from that once when there was no fans there. But there'll be fans this time, and more than ever.
More than ever, louder than ever. Another magnificent part of this day on Sunday was listen to the absolute din coming from Liverpool fans, looking at those swirling scarves, seeing the bit of pyro. It was just brilliant, urging the lads over the line in a way that you've come to expect on big occasions, but you can never take for granted. It was wonderful to see. Just one more moment to talk to you about, because we all know that Mo Salah and Darwin Nunez and Dom Szoboszlai could not take part in the game, that Curtis Jones is hobbled at the moment, amongst others, Ali, all the rest of them. But you will have seen several times, no doubt, on repeat, the fantastic video footage of Darwin Nunez deciding that he must celebrate on the pitch very, very quickly. He bundles Mo Salah out of the way, and if you watch the video, Mo Salah disappears. It's like some sort of a visual trick. He hammers Curtis Jones to one side. He just clambers over two separate fences. He's injured, Jan, and he's out there. He's giving it socks. And all that did, apart from most of us going, fucking be careful, was it just further cemented this absolute adoration for this mentalist that people have. I imagine I imagine in different circumstances, he's getting a serious bollocking about that. That can't be acceptable in any way, shape or form. But he's unhinged, and we love that.
Yeah, the medical staff will probably get the blame for that one, Trevor, if he doesn't play against Southampton this midweek, isn't it? But yeah, it's nice because, believe me, Trevor, and this is genuine, and most players are exactly the same. So we won the Carabao Cup, but if you're one of the big hitters and you're not part of it, it just, it just lacks a little bit, and it, of course, celebrates. But you don't celebrate as hard as the others unless you're Darwin Nunez, you know what I mean? So that was really nice to see. No, but that was really nice, Trevor, wasn't it? You know what I mean? Yeah. Because you can understand that yes, of course, celebrate, and but a little bit muted, isn't it, compared to all the others, isn't it? But obviously he wasn't. And I do think, Trevor, had it been Premier League game against Manchester City, some of them players might have played. We might have risked playing them. So now we've got a problem with them not playing in the Carabao Cup. And now almost it feels like a lot of people, I don't know why but a lot of people always say the Southampton game doesn't matter anymore. I said, of course it does. Because if we don't beat Southampton, we won't win all 4 trophies, will we? So there's almost like this, let's just go to Anfield and celebrate winning the Carabao Cup and let all the kids and see what they can do. And I went, no, let's get the mixture right. And let's put some experience in there, and let's Southampton, luckily, last couple of games have hit a bit of a brick wall, and I'm not playing particularly well at the moment, isn't it? But I don't think there's any need to. It's like people have this thing about, there's no way they can play again. Yeah, I said, fucking right, they can play again. Don't worry about that. Of course they can go again. Yes, I know it was Sunday. I know for some of them, half of them, it was 120 minutes, but they can go again. Don't worry about that. And I've never been one of them, Trevor, where I don't worry ahead of things. Let them all play. And if they get injured, we'll deal with that, isn't it? But let's not assume we're going to play and they're all going to get injured. No, let's assume that if we play, we're going to do well and we're going to win and we're going to be the quarterfinals, isn't it? I've always been like that. And if they get injured, we'll deal with that, And that's my attitude. But I know that it will be overwhelming how many inexperienced players, let's stop calling them young, but how many inexperienced players we will have in a team on Wednesday. It should be okay.
It's interesting because that's where we need to go next. There's just about enough time for us to talk about the 2 games that lie ahead. And yeah, you mentioned the way Southampton's recent fate, 2-1 reversal against Millwall, and that was at Southampton. They had a 2-1 reversal against Hull. That was out at Southampton. You have to go back to the next game where they actually won 2-0 away at West Brom. Before that, they got beat 3-1 at Bristol. And before that, 5-3 home win over Huddersfield. So it's a mixed bag, to say the least. If you look at the championship table, Jan, they're sitting in there in 4th place on 67 points. Very much the top 4 are very much away in and of themselves. It's, they're 7 and 4. It's 11 points back to West Brom in 5th. So they're going to be feeling that they're safe and sound in playoff places. The season's going pretty well. They might be looking to overhaul Ipswich, who are sitting in 3rd, 5 points ahead of them. Leeds are in 2nd, 5 points ahead of them. So they'll have ambitions for that. It's obviously been a good season for them so far. They're going to have their tails up. They're going to be all about it. We've heard the cliches before. It's a cup. It's going to be their cup final. Blah blah blah. In terms of players, Jan, that people may remember or not remember, because obviously it's not that long ago since we were having a look at Southampton. They have a lot of familiar names. Gavin Bazunu, the Irish keepers there, Harwood Bellis, Stevens, Bednarek and Walker Peters. Several familiar names there across the back. Their midfield against Millwall in the recent game was Aribo, Smallbone and Armstrong. Again, people remember at least Armstrong. And then Brooks, Adams and Fraser. They've hung on to quite a few of those lads who were playing in the Premier League. And they've got Sulemana on the bench who came on, Joe Rothwell, Adam Armstrong, Ryan Manning, Edozie came on as well. Some of those names will be familiar to people as well. This is going to be a massive, massive challenge, no doubt about it. A really good championship team who are going to have their tails right up. There's a superb opportunity for them. You talked about getting the right mix of experience and all the rest of it. Will it stick in your craw very much if we don't do the business? Are you kind of wedded to this idea of the magnificent 4 trophies thing. Is there any sense in maybe allowing that this one could possibly go by the board if it had to, because Forest feels huge?
I wouldn't be happy, no. I would think even with all the injuries that we have, and also I think what Klopp possibly has as a benefit is that he will know what is the state of play with the ones who are unavailable through injury in terms of Forest and European game and Manchester City and whatever. And so, no, I would still give it a real go, try to win. I mean, Southampton they bought a lot of young players with the hope of selling them on. It's a very sort of data-driven business, a bit like Liverpool. They've got some really good players. I think they're actually disappointed that they're not on the top 2 automatic places. I think they expected that. But they've done a good job. Good young manager in Russell Martin. They play some good football. And they have some qualities to hurt. And I think it'll be a good game. I mean, last week when we spoke about it, I suggested 4-2. I still think there's going to be goals in this. I think it's going to be open. It's going to be end-to-end. Southampton will feel exactly the same way as Brentford felt, as Luton felt, as Chelsea felt. We might not get a better chance because of the injuries that Liverpool have got. And Southampton will be exactly the same. So I'm thinking, injuries, a lot of inexperienced players will never get a better chance. But there's no guarantee, is it? You know, I still have a feeling that, yet again, almost whoever plays, we will find a way. We'll find a way of getting it done.
It's funny you mention Luton and Brentford, because they're the ones who kind of sandwich Forest in the Premier League, who are our weekend opponents. Like I said, this game feels huge because every single league game is going to feel huge, as long as there's still a really strong chance that we can win this thing. They're on 24 points, a point behind Brentford, who are in 16th, and a point ahead. 4 points ahead of Luton, who are in 18th. So you could say there's a 4-point cushion there. You could say that that's comparatively comfortable, but no, Luton have a game in hand. So it's only really a 1-point cushion if they win that. I'm not sure what you make of Forest, and just so people have some idea of their form running up to this, they got beat 4-2 by Villa recently. Their game before that was actually a 2-0 home win over West Ham. They lost 3-2 away at home to Newcastle. And they obviously had their win against Bristol City in the FA Cup 4th round replay, which meant that they will be playing Man United tomorrow night when we are playing our FA Cup game. So it's going to be difficult for them no matter what way you look at it. They're not going to find it easy. They're not finding it easy. I don't know whether this is the kind of thing that rallies a club, an opportunity to save some, a little bit of excitement for the season, a little bit of a sense of achievement. There's some good footballers at Forest. We all know that they bought like about 2 squads. But there's some good footballers there. They have Murillo and Felipe at centre half, Williams and Niakate, full back. Dominguez and Danilo were the 2 starting midfield in the most recent game. Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs-White, Elanga, highly rated players, and Awani up front. Off the bench, they actually took Divock Origi. He must be back in some sort of shape. And the rest of that substitute bench, Kouyaté, people will know. Giovanni Reina came on. Ryan Yates came on. Harry Toffolo came on as well in that last game. This is going to be a whole different sort of affair for us, Jan. It's one that I'd like to say I'm really looking forward to, because I am really looking forward to all these games. And I do feel a sense of confidence. It's at 3:00. It's away at Forest. Again, it's going to be a huge challenge. You'd imagine there's a good chance that we'll have a couple of those guys we mentioned, at least 2 of them possibly back in the running, although you don't feel confident until you see the team sheet being announced these days, the way lads are falling left, right and centre. What do you make of this Forest challenge, and what particularly are you concerned about, if anything?
So I agree with you when you mention some of those names and you think, yeah, wow. I mean, they got some ability, they got some pace. You know, if you look at the front 4, all with really good pace, which is the one thing that can always hurt you, give you problems in games. But there's no doubt that ever since they got promoted, they've overbought. They bought players who are not suited to the Premier League. They've bought players who are not suited to the way that Forest wants to play. and then you've got interfering owners who think that they should be doing better. So it's a very difficult cocktail to get right, and they haven't. They are the one team just above the relegation line. I don't think they'll get in relegation because I don't think the bottom three can get enough points to put pressure on Forest. But they've been disappointed. And again, it kind of comes back to no real identity, searching to try and how do we get the best out of the players that have proven that they are Premier League qualities, and they haven't really managed to do that. It's always hard. Not many teams go to the City ground and run all over Nottingham Forest. Most of their home games are really, really tight. I expect the game on Saturday to be tight, but we are better than them, and we're on a mission. And because of that, I think we'll take the 3 points.
Just a quick word about which of the youngsters you think might feature tomorrow night. You can see a real case for Jayden Danns, for example, primarily because we don't know whether Mo and Darwin are going to be available, so we might need to lean really heavily on Gakpo and on Diaz. And Diaz looked something borderline to exhausted out on his feet. He was holding the back of his thigh, which is a worry. I've not heard anything about that. But in the extra time, he was very much holding the back of his leg and he was shuffling around the place. So Jayden Danns seems to me to be one that might have a shout. I wouldn't be surprised to see McConnell either because of that kind of calm that he has, or Bobby Clark, or both. You can see Quanta starting. You can see Conor Bradley starting, I think, unless we're thinking very much in terms of him being absolutely vital to our current state and not want to risk him. So of the famed Cop kids, which of the ones would you see maybe getting a run out tomorrow evening?
Sure, I could easily see Bradley as right back, Gomez and Quansah as centre half, and Simic as a left back. And then you've obviously got your midfield, where I agree that McConnell will play. And then you look at Endo, who played the full 120, and it looked like it particularly left a mark on him. He was really, really tired. Would that then mean McAllister, would he play? Up front, I could see Harvey Elliott, I could see Gakpo, and I could see Danns. The one bit where I struggle is what do we do in midfield? Said before, I think McConnell will definitely play. It could be Clark with one experienced player. Elliott could play in there. We could decide to do something else up front. So it's a little bit tricky. And so, off the ones, I mean, Quansah is like he played a lot of games already. I think he's got about 20 appearances already. And Bradley almost feels like a first-team regular now, isn't he? So I think of the others, there might be 2 or 3 of them playing. But as long as they're in there, protected by the Klopp system, what Klopp's put in place, I think we'll be fine.
Well, I look forward to it, and we should finish like we always do, getting an idea of how you think they're going to go. You've already suggested that you feel it's going to be a pair of wins, which is very encouraging. And how do you see it panning out score-wise in both games? Yeah,
so the other day I suggested 4-2 against Southampton. I wouldn't go a million miles away from that. I think there'll be chances. It'll be an open game. It can't be any other way. As I said before, we have a clear plan of how we want to play. We gave up chances. We gave up chances against Chelsea. That's how we play. We play with risk, and it's working. I've expected it to be a little bit more controlled at Forest, also because of the way that they play. But again, I think Forest is a team that makes individual errors, and I think that will give us chances. So 4-2 at Anfield on Wednesday, and I think we might just beat Forest 3-1 at the City ground on Saturday.
Well, that would make for a very, very happy pair of fellas doing the podcast next week, looking ahead to that City game and all the rest that's coming up in quick succession. European football, left, right and centre and all the rest of it. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. It's been great to have a chat as ever, Jan. We touched a lot of bases there, so I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot, haven't we, Trevor? But it almost feels like it's for real now, isn't it? Because every game could be almost fatal, couldn't you, for the dream of winning 4 trophies, isn't it? So, it's win or go home.
Win or go home. Yeah, it's exactly it. You heard the man Red Sky tomorrow night. Win because we don't want to go home because we're enjoying this run. It's fantastic. It's exciting. We're delighted to be bringing to you here on Anfield Index Pro. We're delighted to have Jan Molby along for that particular journey, and hopefully it'll be a long one with the maximum amount of games and a whole lot of shiny silvery things to celebrate at the end. I've been Trev Downey. That was Jan Molby. This is Molby on the Spot, and we'll be back next week.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
When things feel a bit chaotic, Instacart helps deliver milk and sausage. Add a little life to your cart. Get stuff from literally all your stores, from baby wipes to albacore. Add a little life to your cart. Instacart helps get your groceries. Your first 3 deliveries are free.
Download Instacart. Add life to cart. Terms apply.